What's up guys, I'm Lou for Golf Avenue and we're back with another comparison. This time we're looking at TaylorMade drivers, some of their best models from the last 25 years, dating all the way back to 2000, including their most recent release, the Qi4D. So let's not waste any more time, let's take a look at our drivers one by one before we start testing them. First up we have the TaylorMade 300 Ti. The 300 series came out in 2000. This club head is really as basic as it comes. Barely any technology, if any at all on there. Bonded hosel, really nothing adjustable. It's just a simple club head, really small, very easy to target throughout the swing. So it's a good starting point to compare our more recent models. Next in line we have the R9 from 2009. It's very different from the 300. Already a much larger club head. You have an adjustable hosel to adjust your launch angle. And there are 3 adjustable weights at the back of the club head to change the bias of your swing. Right now it's at the back to help with launch angles. If you were to move it to the heel, more of a draw bias. And if you were to move it to the toe, more of a fade bias. So that's what we have right now. The R9 is our second model, but we're going to start seeing more and more technology and the club heads are going to keep growing. So let's look at our next model. And our third driver is perhaps the all-time favorite from TaylorMade lovers. It's the M2 2017. This thing is still a beauty. Right when you look at it, there's not as much adjustment with this one. Yes, you still have the adjustable hosel. You have an adjustable weight at the back of the club head, but this one is not really meant to be taken out or adjusted at all. You have the speed pocket at the front, which is now a staple of TaylorMade driver. And if you take a look at this one, it's a little hard to see, but if we put them all side by side, this club head is really bigger than the 300 or even the R9. So this is the more typical 460cc club head that you'll see with the next models that we'll have in line. But this is really typical of what you can expect from drivers nowadays. Our fourth driver is the SIM2 from 2021. It's a beauty. It's still beloved by many TaylorMade lovers just because it's the last of TaylorMade driver to feature a titanium club face. It also has the twist face tech that was introduced in 2018 with the M3 and the M4. It's got 2 adjustable weights at the bottom, the speed pocket, and an adjustable sleeve. So it's really a techie driver. But the next one we're going to look at is even more techie, as it's the most recent driver from TaylorMade. Last but not least, we have the most recent driver in our list. It's the 2026 release Qi4D. This one has a bunch of tech in it. You still have the speed pocket that was revolutionized here. You have 4 adjustment weights. You have 2 at the back here and 2 under there. Those are meant to be moved around if you want to adjust the feel of the club for more higher launch with more weights at the back, or a draw or a fade bias depending on where you put it under the club head. It still has the adjustable loft sleeve for you, and it still has the twist face tech, but this one has the carbon club face as it was introduced with the Stealth line. So now that we've taken a look at all of our drivers, there's only one more thing to do, and it's put them to the test. All right, so I just finished testing the 300 Ti. A lot of things that I did not expect for this one went really well. I really expected to struggle making contact with the club face just because it's so small up on the tee, but I really hit the ball pretty pure every single time. I will say though that since the club head is smaller, yes, closer to the toe or closer to the heel, penalty is much more important, and it will show in your results. But what I'll say is that this club is so easy to control. Those smaller club heads really make the feel for the ball go to the next level. You really can feel the ball easily, you know where you're making contact, and it's easy to push the ball where you're trying to send it to. I'll say that if you have a tendency to slice, this one might be an issue just because you won't be able to square the face up every single time. And if you manage to put the face on the ball, there's a real risk that the ball could fade away from you either to the right or the left depending on what you are. So overall, really surprised by the 300 Ti. It's a great starting point for a test, and it's really nice to see that those older drivers, while, I mean, TBD with the distance, but while they may not be able to keep up with the distance, they're still great clubs that feel amazing at impact. But what we're looking to see is which one is actually the best. So let's see what the others can bring up for us. So I just finished testing our R9. It's a really different story than the 300. I struggle to find my comfort with that one. That's a big issue, and it's really a big issue if you're looking for a new driver. One of the big things that drivers will bring you, yes, it's distance, it's accuracy, but it's important to feel comfortable when you're standing in address or even when you're making contact with the golf ball. With this one, I could never find my comfort at address, and I could never find the comfort when I was swinging the club. I was making contact all over the club face. There was a strong draw bias that you can sort of see at address, but it really shows itself when you're actually hitting the club. And really, I think I would have needed to fiddle around with the weights a little to figure out what really worked for me. But even the club face, the feel for the club face, you do know where you're making contact with the golf ball, but it's hard to really square it up at impact, which sucks for a driver because you're really trying to make good contact and you're trying to square it at impact. But really hard for this one to be exactly where I wanted or even feel the club head throughout the swing, which one of the better assets of the 300 Ti is that I could really feel where my club head was in space. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those massive club heads impact the performance of the more recent drivers. I like the smaller club head on the 300 just because I felt like I could feel the club head. This one was really more of a struggle. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the other ones can bring because this one was a massive disappointment. So I just finished with the M2 2017, and as I expected, this club is special. It's not Rory McIlroy's favorite for no reason. It's still good. It's really amazing. Just look at the club head, okay? Just look at the top of the club head. There's this white crown here. Great for alignment. It really helps you know where you're aiming with this club. So sad that TaylorMade went away from those, and you'll see when we go to the other models. As we go through the years, they kind of get rid of it. I really liked it. This one may be a bit too big, but as we go through the other models, you'll see it gets smaller and it really gets perfect. But the other thing is with that one, as I mentioned, you have the adjustable weights, you have the adjustable loss sleeve, but overall, it's just really consistent. The massive club head helps for confidence, but it also helps make contact even when you're off center. And those off center strikes are really not as punishing as they were with the R9 as an example. The other big thing that I found with the M2 is that it was so easy to generate a lot of speed. Very easy to locate the club head and speed, feel where it was in my backswing, and move it to the front. It was something I was worried about after testing the R9, but it looks like TaylorMade tackled this issue head on as soon as they noticed it, because this one is amazing and it came out about 6 years after the R9. So overall, extremely impressed. I get why it's so beloved by TaylorMade lovers everywhere, but I'm really looking forward to testing the SIM2 because the SIM2 was our best seller last year. So I really want to see how it measures up to this one and how it'll measure up to the Qi4. So no more chatting, let's get to testing. So just finished testing the SIM2 and it's really all I expected it to be. I get why people love it so much, the TaylorMade fans. The club face feels amazing, the titanium club face. The twist face really helps on off-center strikes. The white crown that I love so much is still here on this one. It's much thinner, but it's so much better for alignment. I felt like the M2 was slightly too big, just a bit too much. This one is so easy to align. You really don't have to think about it too much. Easy to generate a lot of speed. My only knock would be that since this one's a little older, the transfer of energy from the swing speed to the ball speed is maybe not the best, but really hard to bash on the club that's 5 years old. And this one's used, so it's probably seen a few drives in its days. But overall, that to say, even if your model is 5, 6 years old, really there's no need to be hurrying up to change it. Yes, if you find a good deal on a more recent model, don't hesitate and jump on it. Some of those more recent models are really incredible, and we're about to see with the Qi4. But if you're still holding on to a driver that's 5 or 6 years old, chances are you won't see that big of a gain with the more recent model. So that's why the SIM2 is still so beloved. And it's probably why we sold so many SIM2 Maxes last year as well. And we've made it to the last driver in our test as promised, the Qi4D, the brand new Qi4D. This one is the core model. I wanted to test the core models against the other core models from TaylorMade. Again, this one, I was not expecting too much just because there's so much hype every year. There's so much marketing. There's so much wording around new models, but I'm not joking. This one delivered more than I expected. I really am looking forward to taking a proper look at the stats and see which one ended up on top or what's the difference between the different models. But this one, it felt like the ball was coming off the club face aggressively every single time. Even if I was not giving necessarily my best strikes, the ball just flew right off. It was very easy to feel the ball off the club face on better and not as good strikes. And the other thing that I'll say is that it felt very easy to generate a lot of spin with this club. Not just because of the shaft or anything else. Really the new shape of the club head allowed to really go through the motion more easily. And I'd also argue that the quad system really helps to really feel the club head when you're in your backswing. So usually I'm never so impressed with those brand new models as they tend to just match the performance of the recent releases from the same brand, but this one really changed things for me. It's an impressive driver. If I get the chance to get my hands on a deal soon enough, it might just take the place of my gamer in my bag. So overall, the Qi4D, very impressive on first impressions, But what we want to take a look at is the data to actually see which one was the best. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into our distance data. All right, so looking at our chart, we can see that there's one true king, and it's the Qi4D. It has the longest carry distance, longest total distance, the highest ball speed, and the highest club speed. So with those stats, you know that this club is fast and it's long. Obviously, the fact that it's leading 4 different categories is very impressive to us, especially because when we compare those new models, usually, they really don't set themselves apart so far. And this one is incredibly far apart from the others. But as much as I was really impressed by the Qi4D, we have to give its flowers to the SIM2 for keeping up really well. Yes, there's a clear difference between the two, but keep in mind that after gathering the data for this test, I tested the SIM2 again, tweaked a few things around, and I was able to match the performance of the Qi4D very closely, not exactly obviously, but very closely, which shows us that the SIM2 is still a respectable driver that can still fit in your bag very easily. And the best part about this is that it comes at a much cheaper price than the Qi4D. If we keep going down in our chart, I also want to show some love to the M2 2017. It was very close to keeping up with the SIM2. Actually, I'd argue that the only reason why I couldn't match the output of the SIM2 is that the M2 had slightly higher spin rates, which probably limited its rollout and probably overall carry. Yes, launch angles with the right spin rates can create more carry, but here the higher spin rates probably limited the travel in the air as well as the travel once it hits the ground. So overall, I can see why some people are still enamored with the M2 2017. Great club, feels amazing, still has plenty of technology that can match what today more recent models have. But overall, yes, the M2 is still a great club, starting to show its age a little, especially when it comes to converting swing speed into ball speed. But aside from that, if you still have it in the bag, no worries. But I think we'll give you a good price for it if you're looking to trade up and upgrade your driver this season. Next up, you're probably expecting me to talk about the R9, but I really want to shine a light on the 300 Ti. It was the most impressive driver in this test. Not the best, but the most impressive to me. I was really not expecting anything out of that one. I was expecting to have to fight with it to get some proper data. Actually, felt great. The ball felt like it was always pretty much straight or really not that far offline. Very easy to make contact with the golf ball. Yes, there were some few mishits here and there, but really not as much as you might think. And actually, the 300 performance is so good that it outperformed the R9. As I said, I really had a tough time finding my comfort with the R9. Don't know if it was the club head, don't know if it was the shaft. Really hard to put my finger on it. But those drivers from this era around 2008 to 2014, there's a lot of drivers in there that I struggled to hit. Couldn't put my finger on it, really. But the R9 fell into that category. Really couldn't find my comfort, couldn't find a liking for it. I just felt like the 300 felt better for me, and it also delivered better performance overall. So keep in mind that if you're on a very tight budget, those older models from 20 years ago or even more can still fit well in your golf bag. Will they give you the same output as one like the Qi4D? Probably not, but you'll also be paying a ninth of the price of what you'd be paying for that Qi4D. So just something to keep in mind if you're shopping on a budget. But of course, when it comes to driver, distance is only half of the story. You want to know where your ball is going to land, even if it's not in the fairway. You want it to land not too far off of it, or at least keep it in play, right? So let's take a look at our dispersion zones to see which one really shone in that department. So let's start with our surprise of the day, the 300 Ti. If we look at the dispersion zone, there are 2 clear outliers, one on the far right, one on the far left. I'd say those are probably more due to human error on my end, just 4 strikes, so I was just trying to see something. But the other 4 are tightly packed together, and this is so impressive for such an old club. Usually these clubs, yes, you'll get more feel for the ball, but it can also be very wild from time to time. But the 300 showed that it's really accurate and it's still very impressive. Moving on to the club that I found to be the more disappointing one in this test, the R9. There are again 2 clear outliers up on the right side, but I think we can all agree that it's obvious that I tried to get after those 2. They're a little far up to the right, so they got away from me a little, but they still managed to travel a decent distance, which is admirable. And the other 4 strikes are really more clustered together, not nearly as tight as the 300 Ti, but they're tighter together than what I would have expected. So still, I gotta tip my cap to the R9 for its decent accuracy, but again, if you really can't find a nice feel for the club, it's going to be tough to be very accurate. I'm actually surprised I managed to put 4 strikes so close to one another with this driver. Next in line is the beloved M2. It really shone in the distance department as it was almost able to match the SIM2, but we're starting to see the cracks when we look at the dispersion zone. Yes, the length of the strikes are pretty similar to one to the next, but when it comes to dispersion, we have some on the right, we have some on the left. It's really more eclectic, and that shows that yes, the M2 has a massive club head that you really can feel the ball at impact, you really can know where you're making contact, and it really helps bring you more confidence. But the downside to that is that wild strikes, yes, while you may not lose as much distance, you will be offline. Not so badly, not so terribly, but you'll still be offline, which was one of the bigger knocks with the M2 2017, is that it was really powerful, but when it came to accuracy, it can be a little wild from time to time. Moving on to the SIM2, we have some of the same issue that we had with our last club, meaning that yes, the distances are there, but it's a little wilder in terms of landing zone. You have 2 outliers on the left that were clearly from human error. I tend to pull a lot on this specific TrackMan, especially when we're out on the range, and it happened twice with those 2. There's also the other outlier on the top right. That's again human error. I really aligned myself that direction to try and counter the pulls that was hitting. This one is a great distance, but it's an outlier nevertheless. The other 3 strikes are really more tightly packaged together, but you really can't ignore those 3 outliers. It's really something to keep in mind. Yes, it was the last TaylorMade driver to have the titanium club face, great ball feel, but on the other hand, I think they might have fixed some things with the composite face. And last but not least, we have our bomber, the Qi4D. Just look at this dispersion. It's incredible. It's way tighter than I expected it to be. There's a slight bias to the right just because that's where I was aligning myself, but it's incredible. I really don't like to glaze brand new models because I feel like a lot of them are just a lot of marketing points and just stocking points. This one is all business. It's long, it's accurate, it's all you want from a driver. It's incredible. So we're just about done here with our test today, but before I let you go, I just want to go over a few points that we established in today's video. First off, the Qi4D is the real deal. TaylorMade advertised it as a game-changing driver with this year's release. They're not lying. This club is incredible. It feels great. It performs great. It looks great. Everything's great about it. I'm not joking. I really love this club. I'm not crazy about new releases. Usually I'm not overly crazy about them. This one I really am infatuated with. I'm really excited to try the LS, try the other variations just to see how differently they perform when you take them out on the course. Second, and this is a point that we love to make and love to put the emphasis on, it's clear that models from 5 or 6 years ago, even 10 if you want to stretch it, can still match or at least come very close to matching the performance of brand new models. In today's test, the Qi4D really managed to sell itself apart, but I did mention that I managed to hit the SIM2 really close to the Qi4D after tweaking it here and there. So just to keep in mind that 5 and 6 and maybe even 10-year-old models will still be worth your money, especially because you can get a great deal on them. And last but not least, this last point sort of ties in with this previous one. When it comes to older models, there is sort of a limit to where you can go back in time if you really want to have the most output on the golf course. Yes, if you're in a budget, looking at older models from more than 10 years ago is definitely a great option. They'll give you all the performance you need. Just look at the 300. It's a great club that will give you plenty of distance and plenty of accuracy. But you also have to keep in mind that the dispersion of the M2 was not so great. It was starting to be very wide. The distance is still there, don't get me wrong, but it's still lacking behind the Qi4D. It's still lacking behind the SIM2. So distance dispersion, it's starting to show its crack, and it's only 10 years old. But if you look at the R9, I could never find my comfort with it, yes, but it's still starting to show really that it's getting left in the dust by those more recent models that are really getting into new stratospheres of distance, even more accurate than ever and more stable than ever, which is really key. So yes, go back in time for your purchases, especially if you're on a budget, but if you can afford to spend a little more, try to go more recent 5 or 6 years models that are Still very good, but just not at the price that you'd have to pay for those brand new releases. And before I let you go, I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to watch today's video. We do put a lot of effort behind those videos, and we love making them for you to give you more of an idea of how models compare between one another, how much the years have an impact on their performance, and all those kinds of things. So if you have any idea for future videos, just drop it down in the comments. You never know, your idea could be turned into our next video. We've done it already actually. Our last TaylorMade irons video, it was an idea from one of you guys, so make sure to drop it down in the comments. And of course, while you're at it, why don't you leave a like on this video and subscribe to Golf Avenue channel for even more comparison tests. We've got plenty of things coming down the pipeline for you in 2026, so make sure to stay subscribed and up to date with all the latest releases. But for Golf Avenue, I've been Lou. Until next time, see ya.